I'd like to call to order the special admin committee meeting. I'd like to ask everybody's indulgence. I missed breakfast this morning, and Dr. Parker and I went to a funeral, so we're just getting here. So I'm going to try and eat a little something while this meeting's going on. Do we? I note that Mayor Mitchell and Ben Benoit are with us. So I'd like to know if anybody has any board member concerns. Judy, Ben?
None here.
None there, Judy? Can you hear me? Wave your hand if you can hear me, Judy.
Yeah.
Wiggle your ears, do something.
Bill, I'm here in South Pasadena, no concerns here.
Mayor Mitchell, can you hear me?
Councilmember Cacciati, are there any members of the public at your site?
No members of the public in South Pasadena.
I don't have Cacciati.
He's on the phone, Dr. Burke.
He's only on the phone.
Oh, he's on the phone. Great. Okay, great. Okay.
I don't think she can hear.
She called IT people.
Would you like to comment on any travel that we have, Mr. Nastri?
No comment at this time, Dr. Burke.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions about the April Governing Board agenda?
No.
Hearing none. Do we have any board member assistants up for approval this morning?
Nancy, board member? No, sir.
Okay, Ron, we slip right to the first 5 and you're up.
All right. Good afternoon, Dr. Burke, members of the committee. Ron Moskowitz, Chief Information Officer. I have a lot of good news to report. First, we've given our FIND application a brand new facelift. Not only is it more user-friendly, but now it's mobile-friendly. We've also integrated it with our GIS project, and now you can see the facility search results on a map. And we've integrated.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can anyone there hear me? I can't hear you. I'm gonna have my tech guy come in to see if we can get the sound on, because I cannot hear you.
Dr. Burke, did you hear Mayor Mitchell?
Your mic.
Oh, yeah, I heard Mayor Mitchell.
Mayor Mitchell, can you hear us?
Can you hear us, Mayor Mitchell?
She can't hear you.
No.
Okay.
Let's give her a second here.
So we can hear her. Does she have a computer? She could watch it?
Yeah, tell her that maybe she can dial in.
You have her dial.
Is there a technician there with her?
Yes,
Yes.
he's working on it right now, Dr. Burke.
Just have her call on a phone to put on a speaker, she can hear you, like me.
We just called and asked that.
Hey, Robert, did you call Kim or Monica?
Yeah, I sent her the. Yeah. calling it now.
Can you hear us now, Judy?
She's in, she should be. Hello?
Can you hear us now?
Yeah, she's on the phone.
Can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes,
You can hear me?
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Turn off her, yeah.
Okay.
Which one?
All right, Ron, we're back to you, Ron.
Okay, I'll start with the find again. We get our find application a brand new facelift. Not only is it more user-friendly, but it's also mobile-friendly. We've integrated it with our GIS project, and now when you see a facility search, you can see it on a map. We've also integrated it with our document management system, so now when you pull up a facility, you can easily see the related documents such as permits, NODs, and hearing board cases. Since the deployment last week, we've received very positive reviews from users and from the public. And speaking of GIS, with this deployment of Find, we're now successfully completed with our 2-year GIS project, and we were ahead of schedule on that. Regarding email, by this time next month, we will have begun moving all mailboxes to the Microsoft Cloud, and I will keep the board updated on our continued progress. And finally, our mobile app continues to gain momentum with users, and last week, Government Technology Magazine wrote a very positive article highlighting our success. Our Android version is set to be released by the end of May. And everything else is going great, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Ron, we've discussed this before, but I've never received an answer. A couple years ago, the district purchased 1 million names, email addresses. And there was some concern about sending out notices or information to these addresses because of the spam rules. Are you aware of this?
I'm aware of the can spam rule, and I'm not aware of the very specifics, but generally, as long as you're not spamming the public and you ask permission and they have the ability to pull themselves off of an email, we should be okay. But I don't know the specifics. I have to do some research on specifically what we're trying to attempt.
What I would like you to do with our chief legal counsel is explore, it would seem to me that when we send people information, we're trying to educate them.
Correct.
We're not trying to take advantage of them. So I'm not sure that we fall under the spam guidelines. But I'd like you and our chief legal counsel to get together and let me know at the next admin committee meeting what your opinion is.
You got it.
Okay?
Will do, sir.
Okay. Okay, Sunjata?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, Dr. Burke, members of the committee, Sujata Jain, Assistant DEO of Finance. This item is to issue RFP for our elevator modernization project. I'd be happy to answer questions, Dr. Burke.
Are there any questions on this item? May I get a motion on this item? Oh, no motion required. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Alatorre?
Good morning, Dr. Burke and board members. Back in February of this year, the board approved the release of an RFP for our high school air quality educational program. The RFP was mailed out and published in various newspapers around the county, the major newspapers, and also was sent over to the Black and Latino legislative caucuses and various minority chambers. In response to the RFP, 7 proposals were received. Of the 7, 4 proposals were deemed to be technically qualified, and the 4 firms are here today to be interviewed. So, Jeanette, you want to bring the first firm in? Jeanette, first firm. So the first firm is going to be Ariano Associates, and they'll be walking in. Over here. Dr. Burke, the Ariano Associates are here, and what they're going to do is do a 3-minute presentation of their firm or the team, and then they're going to be open to questions.
Thank you so much for coming today to make this presentation. This program is very important to the district, and we're anxiously awaiting what you have to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Burke and committee members, all of you here. We're privileged to be here today to share a little bit of information about our team and our proposal, and we thank you for the invitation. My name is Genoveva Arellano. I am principal and owner of Arellano Associates. We are a public outreach communications firm and have been in business now for 25 years, based here in the Four Corners area of the 4 counties in Chino Hills, and as such, we've been able to service the Southern California region equally and with a lot of pride and expertise for all 4 counties. So this particular bid, in terms of reaching out to high school and the youth of our region, is right up our alley. When we started the firm, youth outreach was an integral part of the communications methods that we've used and always has been for years. We have VMA Communications also on our team, and between the 2 firms, we have about 65 professional staff available to you to work on the program and make sure that we cover all corners of the region. Environmental outreach, communications to youth has been a cornerstone of our work, including using the latest in technology in communications, which has overhauled our industry, and something that Arellano Associates takes a lot of pride in specializing. And for that, I'd like to have Chester Britt talk a little bit more about our capabilities there.
So as Heno mentioned, multimedia, digital, and communication tools are a big part of our approach. We really wanted to highlight a handful of those today so you can get an understanding of how we intend to service this contract. So we use Smartsheet, which is an online management tool to not only track the tasks that we're going to be doing, but also to manage the communication with the districts and the schools themselves. It's a very versatile, easy to use tool. You can add files to line items, which is very useful to allow the staff at AQMD to manage what's going on as the project goes through the process. And we can produce Gantt charts and calendars at the push of a button, so it's very easy to operate. We also are going to use GIS extensively for this program. We use it all the time for mapping and use it to identify the targeted schools that we're going to be focused on, track the progress of the program, and also to illustrate the geographic coverage and relationship with AQMD data of other things that are going on with AQMD. We also want to use digital and multimedia tools, including video, webcasts, electronic materials, social media. All these things we're going to be using for both marketing the program to the districts and the schools, and also to implement and train the teachers and develop the curriculum itself. And then finally, we're going to be using online survey tools and analytic evaluation tools so that we can track the progress and make the appropriate adjustments as we go through the program, so that to ensure that the program is a success and be able to document the program at the end of that. Now I'm going to turn it over to Stacy to talk about the 4 keys to our success.
Actually, 3 keys.
Oh, 3.
So I'm going to just highlight some three points that we feel like we can bring to this program that will be measured as far as success. So 1, our proven ability to use GIS mapping and the various layers that we would implement, starting from the agency, state, and federal data. 2, our proven track record in our service to dozens of school districts and schools within the South Coast Air Basin. And 3, our high standard of document control and reporting, just as Chester mentioned here. We use Smartsheets, we use survey results, And we make sure that we are very clear and precise in our reporting throughout. And so with that, I would just leave you with the fact that our team here will bring you a robust outreach program that you can all be proud of. And that's it. That's all I have to say.
Well, I have to tell you, my colleagues probably have some questions for you. I read your proposal. It was excellent. It was excellent. And I think that I have no clue how this comes out today, but I think that there is a lot going on at the district that I personally have been looking for you guys for a while. And
Here we are.
so, yeah, right. And I'm glad to see you. So I'll let my colleagues ask any questions that they may have.
Thank you.
Dr. Parker?
Can you give to us some kind of idea itself of your experience in the background in doing any kind of air quality events where you have large number of people or children or schools themselves to be actually brought in and to deal with the logistics of that kind of environment?
You want me to answer that, sister? I can start by indicating a couple of events. So our work goes way back as far as the mid to late 90s, and doing the Route 210 freeway construction project, which extended from Laverne all the way out to Rialto. And in doing that work, as you can imagine, building a brand new freeway, that the right-of-way was already dedicated, but it hadn't been built yet. We affected a lot of folks, residents, children, businesses along the way. In addition to regular community meetings that would reach out to schools, as well as the local businesses, we had culminating events literally on the freeway that involved children, bike riders, and residents who came out to help celebrate the opening of the freeway. So that's a lot of logistics, a lot of communications with the school districts who are immediately affected and others who would enjoy the freeway. In addition, there's another program that we are currently working with the Riverside County Transportation Commission, which is Operation Lifesaver, where we actually go out to the individual schools, high school level, elementary and junior high, where we make presentations to them, including a mascot that says Think Smart about being on the rails. It's a safety education program. So we understand kind of the levels of messaging that are needed for high school, junior high, and elementary age children, and adjust our materials to match and our communications messages to match, including, for example, we created a coloring book for the Route 210 freeway construction that children loved using and helped them learn about the construction process of a freeway. All of this had environmental messages to it. Obviously, air quality is a priority for our region and one that we continually make in all of our presentations to communities. And I don't know, Chelsea or anybody else who would add any other experiences that you've had.
Well, I'll just bring up one other one. We're currently working with Metro on NextGen, which is the restructuring of their entire bus network. And as part of that program, we worked with the Da Vinci Charter High School to really allow the curriculum that they're implementing in their school for strategic communications, journalism, computer science, and music media to interface with the redesign of the overall bus network. And they were literally tasked as part of their curriculum to develop solutions for us. And Metro did both a charrette-style process with them for a half of a day. They went back and worked on their program and then came back, and Metro went to the school and they presented their ideas to Metro. And we had a very successful outcome. It was very helpful to both them, the students, and also to us as we were working through the bus changes that we're going to be making for Metro. So that was a good program.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Yes.
So this requires you to engage about 100 high schools across 4 counties. And so I'm kind of wondering what process would you use? How would you go about that to find those high schools to get them engaged in the project? And the time frame, it's a pretty short time frame as well. So what would the timeline be?
Yeah, so I'll start off and then I'll hand it off to Stacy. So I think one of the tools that we already mentioned is GIS. And what we really intend to do is look at all the schools across Southern California. And as Heno mentioned, we work in the Four Corners area as our home base, but we have active contracts in all 4 counties. And so we really are going to be looking at GIS to identify where the schools are located physically and look at the demographic data and the environmental justice data that's available to overlay where the schools are physically located with where those areas are that are most disadvantaged and most in need of the program. We can also overlay any AQMD data on GIS as well and get a sense of, looking at all the schools, what schools would we actually prioritize for the program? Once we've identified prioritization of the schools and which ones would be our targets to actually reach out to, VMA has experience working directly with multiple school districts. And so obviously we would need to market the program to the school districts. I would envision maybe creating a video or something that would allow them to understand comprehensively what this project is about, what we're trying to accomplish. And then once we work with the school districts, then we would get in front of the actual schools. And what we've proposed in our proposal is to do things like webcasts, where we've had very good success doing this, where we can have 50 different principals, let's say, participating in a webcast without even leaving their school, so that we could market the program to them holistically. Once we've identified which schools have the popular curriculum tracks that we might be able to attach to, like health tracks or STEM tracks, then we can begin to implement the program using the multimedia tools that we envision and we already discussed. So I don't know, Stacy, if you want to talk more about
Chelsea,
that.
If I could,
You can also
I'm
show
with
her
VMA Communications, and we are, part of our business is we work with about 50 school districts over the course of the firm's 25-year history to provide public relations and communication services. So we have existing relationships with superintendents and principals within your service district, and most of those serve environmental justice communities. So as soon as we do our mapping that's necessary, we can jumpstart, and we have relationships that exist already with superintendents. So that will allow us to go straight into the schools and utilize those relationships in a real timely manner. We also have industry podcasts and newsletters that we can advertise to all of the school boards and superintendents in your service areas, and so we can do that within our existing infrastructure.
And
If I may ask a question. If we had a culmination event, say at the someplace in Los Angeles or Long Beach or Riverside, how many students do you think we could generate to attend that?
I would say hundreds. We've organized at least 100 students, for example, to go to a Metro board meeting before for one of our programs. I think what would be of importance is the logistics, transportation. So we would need to coordinate with each of the districts and proper liability and releases for students to travel, but that's the business that we're in, figuring out those logistics and making sure people participate where we need them to. We might even consider, simultaneous events in different geographic areas that would be, students would be able to go physically in their local county, let's say, to an event, but they could all be broadcast simultaneously, which might be interesting to promote the district's objectives with the high school program.
That's a really good idea. So that we've done this twice before. The first time we did it, we had 14,000 kids at the Los Angeles Convention Center. The second time we did it, we had 12,800 kids at the Long Beach Auditorium. So, I think the scope that we're thinking here is in a different scale
Sure.
than what you're thinking.
Well, we absolutely.
Any other questions by my other colleagues? Thank you so much.
Kevin
Thank you
Burke,
so much for coming in.
Mayor Caccioli had a comment. He said-
I'm sorry, who has a comment? Oh, Caccioli, I'm sorry. Yes, Michael?
Wayne, can you hear me, Wayne?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a question. So as a former teacher, high school, college, high school soccer coach, current coach of high school kids, in my region of LA County, I have about 25 different school districts. The largest being La Puente Hacienda Heights, going to the smaller San Marino, Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, which I was at earlier this week, sorry. How would you, and I know, as you know, board members have changed dramatically over the last several years. Superintendents change frequently. How would you engage superintendents, administration, teachers, staff, all the parent groups on campus, coaches? Not only that, how would you engage the Archdiocese, which has many Catholic schools and other Christian, Buddhist, religious school districts? For example, I've been in Loyola High School. How would you engage the ones that are not in the other public school districts?
Do you want to?
Go ahead.
I would say we would communicate directly with them. This is exactly the audience that we need to ensure simultaneous communication exists as we embark on the program. The Air Quality Management District obviously is a known regional agency with a very important set of objectives. And the student bodies that they're all responsible for, it is in their interest, in one of their objectives, to teach the importance of the role of air quality management, along with a lot of other things, obviously. So this is the business that we are in, knowing our audiences, knowing how to reach them, understanding their networks. Both the public schools and the private schools have their own respective networks across superintendents, teachers, administrators, and classified and certified personnel. We're accustomed to dealing with them in order to get the word out on things. Super important to make sure to follow that protocol, because typically principals do not allow any communication with their audiences without obviously their approval and then the higher up approval. So we're very familiar with that protocol and respect it and use it in order for us to communicate directly with them. Because of the mass of the air basin in terms of its size, it will be important to do this simultaneously and using the technology that we talked about. But there's no replacement for us picking up the phone and calling individuals, and that's why the professionals that we're proposing to you on this program, we've done this before, and there's a very systematic, professional, courteous way to do this. Not everyone will want to participate, but that's why it's important to focus, prioritize our contacts the way Chester talked about, and then bring in the full professional hospitality that we would offer in order for them to engage with us.
Mr. Alano, it sounds good, and it sounds very good, but as you know, in your prior working, many school districts or superintendents or even principals are very busy with their programs, running in schools and districts. You're going to encounter a lot of reluctance, and you know that. What are you going to do? How are you going to overcome the reluctance? As, give an example. I actually prosecute bad teachers for the California Commission on Teacher Credentialing. And when I go to different schools, there's been an allegation against a teacher or something like that, or a nurse.
Of course.
But it's difficult sometimes. How are you going to get past that reluctance, unwillingness to cooperate?
Well, I think what we have to rely on first are our existing relationships. So if we have not had contact with the school before, we would want to use the contacts that we have already. So as Chelsea talked about, we have existing school districts with which we have relationships, and we've worked with other private schools within our network where we have had those relationships. That will help because we will not be an unknown entity to those individuals. But even if in our prioritization where we know we have to go into an area, for example, that we have not dealt with before, it's taking the time, breaking it down and making sure that they understand our objectives. Not the hard sell, but understanding what their pressures and priorities are in keeping their students safe and their parents protected. But us also indicating to them what your objective is and how their student body is important in accomplishing that. So it's not easy. It is trust building that we're talking about. But for 100 high schools across the basin, we feel extremely confident that we can deliver that program to you.
And if I may too, I think with the emphasis on the Common Core curriculum, anything that we can do to showcase that overlaps with what's mandated by the state, and utilize our kind of key messages to really emphasize the service that we're providing and just the interest that this generation has in air quality and environmental issues, I think also is a great opportunity to open the door to.
And I would just add quickly, the whole idea behind the digital multimedia tools is to create an emotional connection to what's going on. So using video and a lot of infographics and different tools and techniques, social media, we can develop a campaign that kind of sells itself, and so that would be kind of the upfront part that we would put in place so that when we're calling them, they have a sense of what we're talking about and they're not like blindsided by something that they know nothing about. So I think it's important that we create a marketing campaign that really educates them about what the issues are, why this is important, and what they would benefit from using it.
Mr. Cacchiotti, are you concluded?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any more questions for this group? Thank you so much for your presentation today. Did a great job.
Thank you, Dr. Burke, and all of you very much.
Thank you.
We're just making changes to the name cards, Dr. Burke. The next group is Gladstein, Neandros, and Associates, and they're walking in now. So they're going to have 3 minutes to introduce their team and then go to question and answers.
All right. So first off, thank you so much for inviting us. My name is Joanne Golden Stewart. I'm Vice President of Programs at Gladstein, Neandros and Associates. And I'm joined here by Mike Turek. He's the Program Manager at GNA, and he was also the...
You're addressing the board members are up there.
Oh,
so that you know.
Perfect. Okay. Hello.
And one on the phone.
And I'm joined by Mike Terreri. Mike is the program manager who is actually the lead on our content associated with this specific proposal. I know we're actually very familiar with South Coast, and many of you know our organization very well. We go by the acronym GNA. We recently celebrated our 25th anniversary. We've been doing this for a very long time, but more specifically, we are a mission-driven firm. And so our entire focus as a firm is how do we reduce petroleum consumption, but also how do we improve air quality. And so the missions associated with South Coast and specifically within this proposal are aligned so nicely with the work that we do day in and day out. More specifically, as a firm, GNA has done probably about 75 to 80% of its work actually in the South Coast Air Basin. And so whether it's pursuing the latest innovative types of clean air technologies and bringing it to this area, working with those different types of manufacturers, or if it's doing education and outreach, or if it's even doing our well-known ACT Expo, right, that's held in Long Beach year in and year out. And so overall, as a firm, we are committed to the South Coast. We have deep relationships within the South Coast. Outreach is interwoven into so much of the work that we do. And we have been doing this for a very long time. We also have been a longtime partner to South Coast, and that includes not only helping on things going all the way back with Clean Truck Program and things along those lines, but also helping with the plug-in drayage project, the zero and near zero emission freight facility that I had specifically worked on. So overall, just a very long history. We're very excited to have been invited to talk with everyone today, and we know we have very limited time to do this introduction, so I'll kind of stop here and ask if anyone has specific questions that they would like to have us answer.
I have a question. Have you had experience in dealing with large groups of children that coming to events that would be spread across 4 different counties?
So we're currently working in the Central Valley on a California Energy Commission project, beginning to plan and implement a similar project of similar scope, working with grades 6 through 12 on a program with 2 aspects, both a train the teacher as well as a traveling teacher program based on next generation science standards or curricular standards. So very similar in scope.
Do you want to talk about the LNG project as well on campus?
Yeah, so and previous to that, we've worked on both grade K through 6, 7 through 12 in Canada, educating classrooms on the benefits of alternative fuels in classroom workshops that include participatory activities, lab type experiments with fuel.
You say that the one in the Central Valley, I guess, is the one of similar scope to this?
Yes, sir. In terms of both the geography, working across a very large geography, a very large population.
And what is the model they use? Do they bring the students together at for some major program, or do they only provide information at the classroom level?
Mm-hmm. So this program has 2 components to it. One is a train the teacher, where we're working with San Joaquin County Office of Education, who has a regional responsibility for science teacher training and professional development. So training teachers to then go back to their schools and train their colleagues on implementing in their quality curriculum that's curricular standards based. The second half is partnering with, as an example, Yosemite Community College District, which also has a regional responsibility to deliver a traveling teacher program where their traveling teachers are going into the classroom with a curriculum standards-based kit to deliver the workshop activity themselves. So there's 2 components to that, but the overlap is in terms of the subject matter, the delivery, and also being curricular standards focused, which we find very important in terms of the approach.
It's not clear to me from what you said that there was an answer to my question in there. My question was, in these programs, do you interact with the kids in the classroom, or do you bring them together at a single event?
In the classroom. In the classroom.
So how many young people are in this program at any one time?
The Central Valley is a new program that we're in the process of implementing. The expected reach for that is through the Central Valley, an estimated over a 2-year period. I think we're forecasting about 1,000 students total to be reached.
And then the project that we did that was in Canada ranged anywhere from, I want to say 20 to upwards of 100 students being in any one room at any given time.
We've done this twice before. Once at the convention center and once at the Long Beach auditorium. And in both of those programs both programs were over 10,000 kids at both programs. So I'm not sure that the scope that we're talking about here is similar?
We proposed, as an optional task within the proposal, putting on a large singular event if there was interest. We described it as a science fair type event where teachers could send their classes with the results of their work using the Sonoma technology kits. So we've considered the idea of having a central program or a centralized gathering as well, based on the interest of the organization. There's the opportunity to do that approach as well.
And I think just from a logistics standpoint, I think most of you know that we are no stranger to large events. So our ability to carry out and execute a large event, we have obviously very significant experience associated with doing that. So handling the logistics, booking the venue, making sure we kind of get all of those pieces lined up to be able to support something like that is something we are very well acquainted with.
Do my colleagues have any further questions?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Mitchell?
Good afternoon. I noticed that your proposal includes presentation materials that are focused on meeting science requirements. And I just wanted to explore that a little bit. Do you foresee you will develop these materials that you will then teach the teachers how to present those materials? And would that be presented in a classroom setting? Or I want to understand the concept of what you've presented here.
Mm-hmm. So the concept was to, in partnership with the Air District, to deliver a program in the classroom directly to students based on those schools' curriculum standards.
And so I also just want to bring up to the partners that we have developed within this specific proposal, including the County Offices of Education, but also Sonoma Tech. They are going to be leveraged heavily in terms of the development of those presentation material, and Sonoma Tech, to our understanding, already has a lot of those program materials. Mike, can you touch on that piece a little bit, like how you'll leverage the work that they will be doing?
Sure. By leveraging their existing KID and history, developing these programs, we're confident that we're going to be able to present to the educators, to their county offices of education, a workshop curriculum, a workshop activity that they're confident and comfortable in terms of having it be directly related and supporting their curriculum standards, their Common Core standards, and the other activities and lessons that they're already carrying out in the classroom. So the goal is to have it be complementary and supporting to, not a separate or sort of alien thing.
So this would be complementary to an existing science class that and the students would get credit for it. Is that what you're contemplating?
So the presentation materials relate directly to the science standards that educators are responsible for basing their lessons plans against. So, for example, there are performance expectations regarding earth and human activity, STEM literacy. These are all directly related to by the presentation materials.
I guess I'm still not clear whether you would have a separate program that's a workshop just on air quality issues, or are you contemplating these presentation materials would be integrated into existing science programs at the school over, say, a semester or a longer term course?
No, the approach is to have sort of a self-contained workshop activity where there is a presentation on air quality, a participatory activity where the students are able to measure air quality in and around the classroom, and then come back and present and close on that. But that all of those materials would be tailored to meet the performance expectations set by the county offices of education, set by the state, really, such that the quality is something that educators and administrators can both be comfortable with and excited about.
And then I note that you have an existing relationship with the Orange County School District, but I'm wondering what relationships you may have with other school districts in the other counties and how you plan to engage the other counties.
Right. So we're lucky and very fortunate to have engaged with us Orange County Department of Education. Each county Office of Education or Department of Education has a designated staff of STEM coordinators that are responsible for the professional development and training of science educators within their jurisdiction. Orange County will be a close partner for us in Orange County and in the surrounding area, we believe, as they also chair the regional Southern California Science Specialists Association, which is an association of the various county offices of education and their STEM staff.
So yeah, in other words, we've partnered with the association through Orange County, that the association has the tentacles to the other offices of education. I actually have a presentation I'm working with the LA County Office of Education on next week related to a couple of other matters. So we do have relationships that we have existing already with a couple of the other county offices of education, but this association allows us to really work more strategically and efficiently throughout the entire region.
And in addition to the County Department of Education, we've also strategically partnered with Breathe LA and reach out to community-based nonprofits that are going to be essential to amplifying the voice and reach of the program to recruit educators and administrators to participate with the program.
And then do you have any experience in training teachers or training other professionals for this kind of a purpose?
So we have a couple of examples, and I know we pointed to a little bit of both of them in the proposal. One of them has to do with the Canadian project that we had surrounding natural gas. And so that was incorporated both us teaching the students directly, but also doing a train the trainer. And so that actually had both of those elements. The program that Mike talked about for the Energy Commission is a very new project. That one's for Central Valley, and that includes more of that train the trainer aspect as well. And so while that one's very new, we do have the experience associated with doing it and with training those professionals.
Okay, thank you.
Sure, I have a question. Michael Caccioti.
He's only on the phone.
Oh, okay. Thank you. I'm sitting there looking around.
So in my region, I represent 35 cities from Claremont west through Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale, San Fernando, Santa Clarita, Monterey Park, Alhambra, etc. Even though there's an Office of Education for the county, I've got 25 plus school districts in my region. And within those 25 school districts, there's many different superintendents, board members, and each school has a principal. There's some charter schools, and that's just in the public schools. Then there's the parochial schools and other private schools. How do you get access to these schools through the district, the superintendents, through the individual principals, which are all have their own priorities and goals for that year, and try to bring this new program in and incorporate it into their current curriculum and priorities for that specific school, that specific charter school, that specific district. I know it's probably the same in every county.
Yeah, the recruitment is the most interesting part of the scope in terms of the challenge and the size. That is one of the reasons why we've proactively reached out to the county offices because of their extensive network, their ongoing and continued work training teachers within the county, the lists that they maintain, the relationships that they maintain, but then also backstopping that in many ways and supplementing it with both our own outreach capabilities as well as those of our community-based partners, including Reach Out and Breathe LA, who also have histories of past engagements with educators and administrators through whether it be after-school programs or classroom work as well to supplement and strengthen the approach.
Yeah, I would just say to kind of complement this, obviously recruitment is critical, but managing that recruitment, right? Making sure that you're touching, you have different touch points throughout the whole process to ensure success. And so we have, as part of the activity, actually a very sophisticated project management aspect of keeping track of every single one of the different modes of communication, whether it's one of our partners reaching out, whether it's us reaching out, if it's done initially through an email blast, and then we have an automated email campaign service that we subscribe to called Eloqua that allows us to input all these different email addresses and kind of create that campaign, and then it's automated in nature. And so it doesn't appear as though it's automated, but different people go into this queue. So the first email might seem, like a nice glossy flyer. The second email seems like it's something very personal to that individual. And you can do something special for the superintendents that we can do for the board members. And so it allows for a nice, efficient way to streamline that and be able to track the records and success. Something that we also built within this proposal are different milestones. And so it allows us to course correct if we're not seeing success in any of the modes of outreach, which I also think is going to be something very critical too.
Another question. You're very familiar with our different programs, incentive programs, et cetera. I heard you indicate that you would have a part of the program in the curriculum in the class, the quality testing centers, maybe one big event. What else, if you knowing the resources the district has, a program, how else could you make the classroom experience come alive, to move these people's hearts, to change their minds, to change their families' minds? What else are you thinking outside the box?
Mm-hmm. So we're very driven to through this activity to develop emotional, intellectual connections to air quality issues and solutions to improving air quality. We think that there are more than two, but there are two key tactics to doing that. The first is to make the materials locally relevant, to include examples that are recognizable to students and within their community. Particularly examples that highlight the emission reduction work of the Air District. That makes a lot of sense. The second is to make it participatory, to go beyond the presentation of the information, but to have it be engaging and hands-on through an air quality monitoring exercise, to be able to, with a particle beam sensor, for example, go out, measure air quality, come back, present it to the class, and then have a conversation related back to the curriculum, including a hands-on component. We think increases the level of engagement, it increases the retainment. It also the opportunity to, in a high school setting, interpret that information also directly relates to the next generation science standards that educators are looking to meet in their classrooms.
I should also say, while it's not as practical to do on an individual school level, at a larger event, you also get the opportunity to leverage, I think, the other key aspects of GNA by introducing the different technologies that can be solutions as well. So being able to integrate them into things like the Act Expo 2020, right? Seeing all the different vehicle technologies that are out there that could help improve air quality. So there's a lot of cool things along those lines to be able to make it a little bit more attractive and interactive as to how those things matter. And so while that's not necessarily formally part of this project, when we do a larger event, and I think that is actually probably unique to GNA out of the others that might have applied in terms of our ability to actually do something like that and execute it because of all of the different types of OEMs that we have relationships with and their willingness to kind of provide that type of support that already is existing at ACT Expo.
I think that's good, but I think you've got to go even beyond that. At a local school district, you can bring in vehicles. You can bring in the lawnmowers that cut their grass that are polluting. You can bring in our electric lawnmowers, electric vehicles there to the school district, to the individual school, as I did when I was a teacher. So I hope you re-examine that position if you get it, this contract, which we'll see what happens at the end. But whoever gets it, I demand that they would bring in our equipment to that individual school district. When you're testing the air quality, you show it that they're driving a diesel-powered lawnmower, cutting their soccer field. And you bring in the vehicles and other equipment that we have incentive programs at. Not just a large event, but the individual schools, so the kids, the teachers, the administration, the principal, their parent, teacher organization, the staff that write those things are getting cancer and understand the whole purpose behind our program.
And I think we were called to comments to that effect at the past board meeting, and I think our reaction to it was to really nod our heads in agreement that having static display of equipment, that which is too large to bring into a classroom, for example, or being able to bring into the classroom hands-on examples is in complete alignment with what we would like to see.
I think I was more illustrating that to do it at scale with 200 kinds of vehicles might be a little difficult to do for one individual school. But being able to bring a specific type of equipment, yeah, I think that's totally doable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. There's no question that the name of your organization is, Judy, am I talking over top of you?
Yeah, I wanted to ask one more question, because they did include in their proposal an optional task 7, which was a clean air science fair. And we have done in the past this kind of event at large venues where we bring all the students together. I'm wondering about that part of your proposal, and you have proposed it in the terms of doing it after year 2 or year 3. There might be a need to do it after year 1. I mean, we'd like to do this more on an annual basis, but how could you see some event like that fitting in with the rest of the proposal, with your overall project in the schools? Ideas about that?
So the challenge of the first year is to recruit and engage the number of schools required.
I might want to slightly revise that, only just because of the fact that I think the people who might be executing the science fair, just from a logistics standpoint, would be different people from a team resource staffing perspective than those that would probably be engaged in the day-to-day recruitment, right? There will be leveraging, but I think from a resources perspective, it actually leverages multiple teams that we have at GNA, which actually makes it possible, and not only possible, but very doable to execute everything simultaneously. So we can leverage different teams. And so being able to incorporate that within year 1, I think is doable. It would be nice to have a critical milestone, I would say, Matt, within that first year before doing that. Making sure you have all of your curriculum, all your presentations, you have it all nailed. You have good relationships already established and working with all of the different ones. That might be sort of the first recommendation that I would have is to get some of those early successes before starting that planning. So that way, when you get to that planning, you've already went through some of those trials and errors. But from a logistics perspective, we absolutely have the capability of doing that simultaneously.
Okay, thank you.
And as I was concluding before, I was, thank you so much for coming. And there's no question that your company's name has been around for a long time and is well respected. So we are pleased that you are involved in this process with us.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So Dr. Burke, the next firm that's coming in is Global Inheritance, and that's Matt Brady and Lisa Chow. And they'll be walking in with us.
Then we have one after this, right?
Yes, sir, Dr. Burke. So both Matt Brady and Lisa are here. We'll give them 3 minutes to introduce their firm and then go into Q&A.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lisa. Thank you, Dr. Burke and committee members, for having us here today. It is truly an honor for us to be able to present some of our ideas to you guys from Global Inheritance. We have worked with the South Coast Air Quality Management District in the past, and we're really excited about the opportunity to bring some meaningful and impactful change into the student community within the environmental justice communities. Just a quick background on myself. I've been a senior project manager with Global Inheritance for over 6 years now. The organization is based out of Los Angeles, and I'll turn it over to Matt just to give you a brief of the nonprofit and its history.
Yeah, so as Lisa mentioned, Global Inheritance is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we use art and sort of like experiential marketing techniques to kind of bring education to kids where they are. So primarily the demographics that we're serving are kids from, fairly young all the way up through college, and the people that we work with at the organization too, we sort of pull from those same pools. So we have people that are young speaking with people who are young and educating them by using art and experiential marketing techniques.
Yeah, and we've been doing this for over 17 years now across the nation. We are primarily, like Matt said, in a live event space, but that means we have touched tens of thousands of young people at a time with our programs. All of our programs touch on environmental issues, everything from transportation to water conservation to recycling, but our approach is very unique. We are constantly tying in creativity. We focus on arts and interactivity, and the biggest thing is that we make sure our experiences are memorable, interactive, and shareable. With a young audience, we realize that this is what gets them excited. It gets them inspired to not only learn about these air quality issues, but it also inspires them to think about solutions and to think creatively about what they can do within their communities to help mitigate some of these issues. Specifically with this proposal, we have presented to you the Air Quality Heroes for Tomorrow. It's a special program where the kids are tasked with designing a superhero that tackles air quality issues. Through the program, they are learning about different air quality issues. They learn about the agencies like the SCAQMD and the efforts that are being made to tackle air quality issues. And they are then taking these factors and considering all these different circumstances that would then go into designing a cool superhero or mascot that resolves some of these, or provides solutions for some of these issues.
Yeah, in situations like this, the ability for the kids to actually process the information using creative outputs rather than just sort of like listening and trying to learn, we found to be an incredibly empowering experience for them. And so the idea would be to sort of like, as they're learning about the techniques and the tools that are available to society to sort of manage these issues, allowing them to understand them and embody them in a character that then becomes shareable, so that where there are multiple schools doing this, they'd actually be able to share the results and sort of like understand how somebody, the powers that somebody might need to control the problem in one area are different than another, and really allow the communities to understand the variances that exist even within small areas.
Yeah, and a part of it too is that we curate a group of professional artists to flesh out and design the superhero concepts. So the kids are collectively in their classrooms through a dialogue with their teachers, with their family members, with their peers, considering all these different factors and coming up with an overall concept, but the artists design them professionally. And then at the end of this whole program, you have a collection or a league of 100 superheroes that are custom designed by all these kids that are not just shareable with them and their peers, but with the public and all the different communities, regardless of whether they were the school that was selected to be a part of the program or not. And on that note, we do believe that this program, like Matt mentioned, has a lot of power to really touch the students. Our bread and butter is the young audience. That's our prime demographic. And we have customized experiential programs to touch on environmental issues for the last 17 years. And we do it in a way that's fun and engaging. And we make sure that it's palatable for them, because we know that with young kids, attention spans are short and you have to make it cool. You have to make it something that they want to be involved in. And it's been a testament that schools, university students have invited us in year after year to be a part of their sustainable action events, their festivals, their student groups. So we're very excited about the opportunity for this to be applied within the Southern California region and to touch the high school students and really to create a meaningful program that the kids can share across the board with everybody and that can really touch on some important issues regarding air quality. So thank you guys very much for having us here today, and if you guys have any questions, we're here to answer them.
Thank you so much for coming in. I must say I was impressed by your attending University of London. My youngest daughter went to both Oxford University and London University. So I know that academic requirements there are very strenuous. So it's obviously you're a very bright person, much brighter than I am, that's for sure. I'm sure my colleagues have some questions for you.
Well, I have one question. One of the, it seems to be a different approach than what we have had experienced in the past. But relative to that, what experience, how do you view reaching thousands of youngsters, young people, with an impact itself about what air quality is, and what have your experience been in the past of doing that? Bring them together, logistically, transporting them. We're going to be covering a 4-county area of high school and children and that age group. So how do you view what you're proposing to do is going to also encompass that particular?
Well, to answer a few questions I think you had, the first was regarding our experience in rallying together thousands of students. We operate traditionally in a festival environment, encompasses up to 300,000 young people at a time. And we have brought our programs to these type of events, for the last 17 years. And I'm not sure if you know much about the festival environment, but you are constantly dealing with very challenging settings and parameters and constantly having to work in different types of environments and logistically dealing with so many variables. We are completely confident that we have the ability to put together a program that can travel to the different schools and touch different students in different settings and different cities. But beyond that, in terms of experience, we actually worked with the SCAQMD on A World We Can Change conference back in 2013 in Long Beach. And this was with 8,000 high school students. We created a large-scale energy playground that brought a fun DJ, local DJ, to the students. The only way they could hear the music was if they powered the music. They had to hop on 30 bicycles, a couple of seesaws, a swing to generate the electricity to power the music. We are accustomed to creating large-scale experiences.
I remember that. I tried to ride that bike. I didn't do too hot.
So we're definitely accustomed to building large-scale, small-scale experiences, and it can be for hundreds of students, it can be for thousands of students. But the great thing about this program specifically is that it is very scalable and customizable depending on the demographic.
Okay. Ms. Mitchell?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by your idea of the superhero. And I'm wondering, would it be a digital superhero created on a computer or the artistic? What's going to be involved in creating that individual?
So the way that the program would operate is essentially the parameters that they would be learning about would be translated into sort of the powers that a superhero has. I actually work in the creative industry. I've been the creative director of Global Inheritance for 17 years. And so the idea is to capture their thoughts and then using professional artists, translate those into the forms of the superheroes. So they would be created digitally in the sense that they would be on computer. But the actual creation of the final superhero is being done by the professional. So that, and we have a program called Posted Studio that works in a similar fashion, where ideas are being generated, they're being roughed out and in sketches, and then they get translated by artists. And there's this moment where the kids get to actually see their ideas presented in this sort of like professional artistic context. That it's great because they're having their minds blown, basically. And so the curriculum and the workbooks and stuff like that allow them to capture these ideas. It's like, hey, I think it would be cool if he had this, or it's like, oh, we want him to have the ability to make rain, to clear particulate matter, or whatever it is. And then the creative artists are used to this. They get a creative brief. This is the way that creative is developed, and they use their imagination. They translate it into the forms of a superhero, and our responsibility would be to make sure, because a lot of these ideas will be similar, is to create this sense of visual distinction between them and this sense of ownability throughout the school, so that everybody feels like they've gotten their own mascot that is able to address their individual things that they're looking to fix.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is that it doesn't limit the students' artistic ability. Exactly. You can just be creative with your ideas, and you can have a great concept, and that gets translated into something visually that the artist is more responsible for. But it keeps them involved, and the relationship between, like we said, the multiple layers of, family member to student to teacher, and then to the artist is amazing, and it definitely is a community building activity.
So, and I note that the idea was at the end of the school year that the superheroes be displayed on a website where all the schools can come together and show their superheroes. Exactly. They can compare what they did. It's an interesting idea, I think. And then this is a program that's going to cover 100 schools, a lot of students, and I'm assuming with your experience, you know how to scale this up to cover a lot of students in 100 schools. Maybe you could describe how that works.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the platform that we are initially starting with is a guidebook. This is something that Iris, Matt's design firm, is completely equipped to do. We have done this with recycling kits for painted or artistic recycling bins that we've gifted to schools in the past throughout Southern California. And we've designed kits for them to give them a tool to say, hey, this is how the program is being run. This is what you can do with recycling. This is what you can do to tackle air quality issues. And with that guidebook, they're able to kind of formulate their own take on it. So from a teacher's standpoint, they can get very creative with this, and they can use it as a building block or a foundation to create their own program. So not one, it won't be exactly replicated from every school, and we're allowing the teachers to have more of an exploratory experience with this, because depending on what their needs are or what resources are available to them at the schools, it's purely a guidebook to the process of learning about air quality and then designing your superhero. So that mimicked across the 100 schools can easily be replicated. It's just a matter of how the schools themselves end up taking it forward and spearheading it on their own.
Okay, thank you. I have.
Any further questions?
Yes, Chairman.
Thank you so much for coming.
Mayor Caccioti has
Is that,
a question, Dr. Burke.
Mr. Caccioni, do you have a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. The question is, I represent Eastern LA County, about 35 cities from Claremont West through Azusa, Pasadena, San Marino, La Piñata School District, Burbank, Glendale, Santa Clarita. You're gonna look at your proposal. You see May through July. It was the schools in target, contact schools. You've got probably 25 plus different school districts, different superintendents, different board members, hundreds of principals. Tell me your process for contacting and getting through this organizational structure of dozens and hundreds of different school districts, and principals and teachers, administrators, the science section at the school itself, the person who's in charge of the science department, above several teachers. How do you get to all these professionals to get this program implemented? And what's your background in doing that?
Well, the way that we model a lot of our programs, at least in the research and development phase, is it's super important to flesh out these ideas and do a survey of what is out in the environment and what type of demographic we're looking at, and making sure that we're honing in on capturing the right audience, and making sure that we're talking to the right folks. And so a big portion of our proposal is bringing on the talent and the experts, whether it is on the scientific end or it is on the school level end, to better understand the varying levels of stakeholders, whether it is a superintendent or the principal or the teachers or the parents, really understanding the best way to communicate to them. I wouldn't say that we have a specific answer for that right now, but that's definitely a key part of the research and development phase of the program. But one great thing that we do have under our belt is that public outreach, at least on a mass scale, is something we're attuned to. We, at the events that we go to and attend and create programs for, we're talking to people from as young as 5 years old to as old as 70 or 80 years old. And we're able to tailor our communications to be able to speak to different audiences, and to get them equally excited about the program as much as the students would. It is, as I say, a testament, because we are consistently invited back when people see our programs and we market them and they see them at events. They are constantly asking us to come in, whether it's an employee engagement event at the Sony lot, or it's USC Spring Festival, or it's the City of Monrovia Water Festival. Across the board, on varying levels, whether age groups or roles in the school districts, we definitely are confident that our program can speak to the level of excitement that the students will have for this. And we feel that excitement will inspire everybody to be involved.
Yeah, it's Global Inheritance is it's a organization that's driven on creative ideas, and the scale of the projects that we do varies quite dramatically, as Lisa was mentioning, from things that are very small to events like Coachella that have hundreds of thousands of people over the weekend. And so the model that we rely on is starting by doing an assessment of what is in front of us, understanding the scope of the challenges, and then going out and working with experts to meet those demands. And so in this particular case, that would be part of first what we did is finding and addressing the people who would help us make those contacts and do all of that logistical outreach.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is that it, Mr. Caccioni?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And thank you for coming.
Yes,
Thank you very much for having
I think everybody is intrigued by the superhero aspect of your presentation. I think that's really I always envision myself as a super, character. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, Dr. Burke.
For the board members in the meeting, we're entering into our second hour, and Mr. Benoit has to leave at 1:45 to get to another meeting. So I think we only have one other presentation, which should take 10 or 15 minutes, which should leave us approximately 15 minutes for deliberation. So I just wanted you to know what we're operating with here. Which group is last, Mr. Alatorre?
So,
Yeah,
Dr. Burke, the last firm is the Lee Andrews Group, and they'll be coming in right now. And with the Lee Andrews Group is Stephanie Graves, Christopher Antonelli, Joseph Williams, Chloe Lee, and Alicia James. So go ahead and introduce your firm, 3 minutes, and then go to Q&A.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Dr. Burke, Dr. Parker, and board members. We are the Lee Andrews Group team. I'm going to read this room that I'm going to even be quicker than 3 minutes. I'm Stephanie Graves, the CEO and president of Lee Andrews Group. We are a public relations firm that specializes in outreach and communications, event planning, and government relations, and large-scale events. We have over 35 employees and are located downtown LA with 25 years of experience. We are a certified small, women-owned, minority-owned business. And why is Lee Andrews Group good for this project? It's a very important outreach project. We have been very involved in environmental justice and in environmental justice neighborhoods in all 4 counties. We have long-standing relationships with many superintendents and school board members in all 4 counties. Personally, I work very closely with LAUSD Superintendent Austin Deutner, and we have many projects with school districts right now. We are a very diverse firm, and we understand the needs of environmental justice communities. And lastly, we have background in creating partnerships with many groups, agencies, and schools. So quickly, I'll introduce the team. Christopher Antonelli, who would be our project manager. He is also a certified school teacher. Joseph Williams, who is a subconsultant that we have worked with before. He is a board trustee for the San Bernardino Community College District, and he would be our advisor for Riverside and San Bernardino counties. He also started the Youth Action Project out there. Chloe Lee is our program information manager who would be dedicated full-time to this project. And Alicia James, who is our special events planning, and she would tie us to many things because of her familiarity with SCAQMD. So we are happy to answer any questions.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, but let me open up in the spirit of transparency. Before Ms. Graves was the CEO of this company, the 2 events that we did previously, the Andrews Group was involved in those events. I don't even know if they're paid for it. I know they work with Chung Lu and Dr. Wallerstein in those days, and they were very instrumental part of the success of those programs. I just sat here and realized when you introduced your associate, and Caccioti, you're going to be impressed by this. Are you there, Caccioti?
I'm listening. Yes.
I was a certified school teacher. How's that? You didn't know that, did you? Neither did Clark Parker. So,
I didn't know that.
so anyway, this program is very important to the district, and I would like to for you to give us more clarity on how you would see maybe Los Angeles School District and the various school districts and how you would work with them.
Christopher, do you want to, and then maybe Joseph?
Absolutely. In terms of engaging, we have individuals in Joseph and Stephanie who have long-standing relationships with school administrators as well as school site personnel that will allow us to gain access to superintendents as well as school district personnel. We realize and understand that this is ultimately a sales job. When we are asking for valuable classroom time, there are only 181 teaching days in a year. We need to make sure that we have a program that has been developed with Sonoma Technologies that teaches to objectives, that reinforces the scientific method. Are we developing a program that, obviously our program has the scientific method in mind. We create a hypothesis, test that hypothesis, we gather that data, and we make some conclusions. Are we reinforcing that? Because that will be a part of the 9 through 12 curriculum in various methods going forward. Is this curriculum, are we making sure when we sell this curriculum that we are addressing visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile learners? Are we bringing things that people can see and touch? Because a lot of folks, yeah, please.
But what makes you think that you can get into all 4 school districts?
Joseph.
So one of the things that we've done is given great consideration to the various local accountability control plans that the districts have, and then high schools have been flipped on their heads with the college and career indicators. And so what we're doing is tailoring our message and the programs to meet the objectives that the districts have in relation to their state standards. So we're excited about being able to bring this programming to them because it can help them achieve some of their objectives. And like Ms. Graves said, we already have relationships. We currently run the Creative After Schools programs in multiple high schools, so we have the experience in facilitating programming with high schools specifically. And so we're going to do direct outreach to principals, engage school board meetings, and
Here's what I'm looking for. Somewhere I heard that there is a meeting of all the superintendents of the 4 counties that we're interested in at one time. Is that true?
Right, so Dr. Burke, when I reached out to Superintendent Buettner, he meets with the superintendents on a weekly basis for Los Angeles. And then on a irregular monthly meeting, he meets with all the different county superintendents. So yes, he does. And he suggested to me that if a partnership could be put in place, that he would help me getting into each of those school districts.
See, that's what I'm looking for. If I could come in through the top of the school district, then it makes our life a lot easier. What do you think the chances of that are?
I would say 100%.
That's a terrible number to give out. Yeah. Okay. I got some racehorses. Can you help me out?
Not at Santa Anita.
Right. Clark says we got to move them out of Santa Anita. Well, that to me would be the keystone in an unbelievable program. So I just want to get that verified that is true. And so you've already said 100%, right?
I did.
Now are you backing up? It's still 100%?
I'll go 90% to give you some wiggle room.
Keep talking, I'll have her down to 85, 85, 75, 60. Yeah. Okay, because it would seem to me, we've had some very interesting proposals in here. One of which I'm going to suggest to my colleagues that even if we don't give them this program, that we enter into a contract with them, because I think that their approach is so unique that it ought to be used in whoever gets this contract's workplace or in a separate program. But the possibility of working with the 4 superintendents of the 4 counties that we're in, to me, is mind-boggling. Now, if that were true, then this program, all the numbers from this program in the past should be surpassed. Is that correct?
I would suggest that we could, since we have the means to do it, yes.
Okay, well, I'm going to let the rest of the board ask questions, because Dr. Parker?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask the same kind of question, but in a different manner. In your proposal, I was impressed with the way that you had put out in your work plan and sequences of activities. Number 3 says identify participating schools. You go back and look at the number of hours that you're saying, and everyone else says that they're going to actually have to commit to doing that. It's certainly with the fact that you already have inroads into Los Angeles Unified School District through the superintendent. It's approximately 500,000 students. That gives you a tremendous leverage in order to be able to identify schools that, and also right now, which if I heard you correctly, you're saying that LA Unified School District has already indicated that they are on board with participating in this from the top down, and that's really through the superintendent. Is that correct?
Correct.
So really, and then with the experience that you've had before in helping to put this particular activity itself on, kinds of give you the opportunity from helping to just coordinate it all together, which is one of the other areas, et cetera, and item number 5 and 6 is messaging and the materials of creation. It seems to me that I'm going to ask the ultimate question. That would allow you then to concentrate on the logistics of being able to bring all of this together, because what you really are saying is that a lot of the materials that are there, that is basically being used by the schools themselves right now, is already there, and bringing that together would be a lot less cumbersome if we chose to go with someone who's never done this before.
And Derek has already gotten money for handouts and phones to sample air and do that whole project for another company. We approved that at the last meeting.
So well, to that extent, that really then begins to say that you guys have really already kind of formulated this whole approach in order to being able to put it together to make it work with the maximum number of students. So the 14, I think Dr. Burke asked, 14 or 10,000 students that have been done, that you conducted over the last, your firm did, the last 2 events. could easily be surpassed and concentrate more in that particular effort. Am I assuming too much?
No, you're not. Superintendent Buettner did say that he would like some air monitoring equipment or something like that at each school.
We've already approved the money for that.
Well,
now, I'm trying to get Board Member Benoit out of here, but
I'm good. I've actually got my appointment pushed back a little bit, so I'm fine.
Oh,
Sir.
fantastic, fantastic. Then I'll feel free to ask this question because it hasn't been asked before. Everybody's talking about public schools. You know, what about charter schools?
Charter schools or science schools, some magnet schools in EJ communities.
But would you include them in your effort?
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell, do you have any questions?
Well, one is we're talking about your outreach to the various schools, and I know that one of your members is from Riverside San Bernardino School, and talked with Austin Buettner from LA, and I'm wondering about Orange County. Do you have some relationships with Orange County people in the school district?
We do in Anaheim, Santa Ana, and Orange.
And I think you have some relationships with the Long Beach Unified School District as well.
Oh, yes.
That's one of the larger school districts that would be impacted by this kind of a program. And then, do you have any experience training teachers? Because the idea of this was a component where we train the teachers then to present the programs to their students. Do you have any experience on those lines?
Do you want
Yeah, absolutely. As another credentialed teacher, like Dr. Burke and Board Member Cacciatti, I certainly have had plenty of, I taught for 4.5 years as a credentialed English teacher in Title I schools in South Sacramento as well as Elk Grove Unified, and can speak to the fact that, boy, I lost my train of thought. I apologize. What was the?
Training teachers.
Training teachers. I apologize. A little bit intimidated. But I've taken place in helping new teachers through a BITSA program where we are obviously constantly using methods to make sure that we are addressing visual, auditory, kinesthetic, and tactile learners, that we are constantly doing checks for understanding, that we are making sure that all of the tools in our toolbox that we are given as teachers are used to make sure that the curriculum is accessible to everybody. So teachers training other teachers and getting other ideas and stealing good ideas from other people is something that I'm very comfortable with. I would relish the opportunity to get my hands on a Sonoma technology kit so that I can see how it works, because I'm chomping at the bit to take a look at it, see how it works, see how it can be adapted to folks who may be English language learners, as well as other folks who don't learn the same way that other people learn. So I certainly know that there's diversity in terms of learning modalities, and would love to collaborate with other teachers to fine-tune a program that will meet everybody's needs.
Don't feel bad. Mayor Mitchell intimidates me too. So.
Very good. Sorry about that.
So scary.
Yes.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that, Dr. Burke?
Sure.
So one of the thoughts I had when we first approved the Sonoma Technology kits is we only have enough money for a certain limited number of high schools. One thing I wanted to make sure we did was to make sure our program was set up where if a school district chose to fund separately other kits, or if it, as you said, the teachers stole good ideas from other teachers, I want to make sure that this program is set up in a way that that would be done. So how would you guys help facilitate that, even after this initial project, make sure that this is still out there where someone else could still buy it and move forward in a future year?
Well, we are going to meticulously capture data, and that data will certainly have information about who we learned from. Stephanie,
No, I was
want to
going to say,
address
Joseph, you might
Joseph?
want to add to that a little bit.
So if I understand the question correctly, how we would open up access for districts to purchase the kits?
Right.
I mean, yeah, we could just make that part of our conversation with them, you know, and looking at the available resources they have through LCAP and provide them with access to contact information for the vendor and just facilitate it. We just make that part of our conversations with them.
Great.
You know, Ben, I think that if in fact it was possible to work through the superintendents of all 4 districts, this program would probably be so large that we may have to ask you to go back to Larry and and ask Larry for some more money, because and there's nobody on the board who's willing to go back, so you got drafted.
Yes, sir.
So, but because this really, if this is true, and I don't know if it's true yet, right? I hope it's true. I hear it's true. But if it was true, this opportunity may not come along, but maybe once in a lifetime. So we certainly don't want to. Did you buy the camera that they're using at your place? Who bought that camera?
They actually recently upgraded about a year ago.
It is so amazing. The definition is so amazing. It's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it's better. It's better than any television I got at my house. That's for sure. Okay, but
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
One of the things that we need to be well aware of is that in the past, we have spent more money than what we have put forth in our RFP today. And we were talking about less children. Now we're talking about more students, because less funds would have to be spent in doing all of the legwork, because a lot of that legwork would have been done, and we would be able to put more out there and to include more students with that. So that would not be a bad idea in order to ask, that this program itself be expanded.
Well, and my hope is a little less that we spend more money and a little bit more that the other teachers, the other high schools see the value in this program, and that the teachers at those schools are asking their administrators to spend the money to get another kit for their school. I know in my area, for instance, Lake Elsinore High School would probably want to do this, but Marietta would want to do it too, and Marietta, though, would have the money to do it. So they would just go out and buy it themselves. So my big thing is just to make sure we're set up for that, and that is allowed to happen. And it sounds like that's definitely part of this.
I'm for that. I'm for that. Any other questions? Thank you so much for coming.
Mr. Brooks, one more question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Cacchiotti. I can't see you, so I forget about you. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Chairman. So my district, I represent Eastern LA County, 2 million people, many students, from Fairmont West to all the way through Burbank, Glendale. Just spoke to the council members in Burbank and Glendale this past 2 weeks. Saw the superintendent of St. Gabriel, Hamburg district the other night. How would you interface with those, my 25 or 30 separate school districts and superintendents and principals? That's in the public school side. What about the thousands or tens of thousands of kids in the Archdiocesan, Los Angeles Archdiocese School District, and other private schools, Episcopalian or Buddhist or whatever? And as you know, even though you might talk to the head superintendent or office of education, it's got to be the principal, then the principal's got to be the science department, and that specific teacher. How would you do that?
I think we obviously, once our criteria is approved, and we want to make sure that we enter parochial schools, charter schools, science magnet schools into that criteria, that we individually go about this using a sales approach. We ask to have time with either school site administrators, principals, teachers. And once we get in front of them, we need to sell them that this is a high quality educational program that teaches to the objectives, that uses a scientific method and is accessible to all four learning modalities. Folks, we want to be able to use things that not only people see and hear, but also that they can touch and use, such as bringing clean air technology cars onto campus so that they can open the hood and take a look at what is under the hood, so that those folks who learn by touching things are accessible. And we want to certainly be able to articulate to school site personnel that this is in fact a high quality educational program that is definitely warrants them buying into, because it will teach to their learning objectives in their classrooms.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
We'll let you know what happens.
So, Dr. Burke, excuse me, it's Jill Wynot. I just want to let you know we have one public comment on this item.
Let me guess.
Yes, Harvey Utter, he also has a comment card in.
Harvey, I want you to know that I missed you at last month's board meeting. It wasn't the same without you. So I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad to see you're okay.
Well, thank you, Dr. Burke. I was a little slow, so
Hey, man.
I missed the meeting.
You're talking too slow.
Okay. Well, maybe I should talk fast. My name's Harvey Etter. I'm speaking for myself and for the Public Solar Power Coalition, and for all those folks that think we need a just, equitable solar transition as quickly as possible. In 1974, this is 45 years ago, I installed the very first solar system at the University of California, UC Santa Cruz 40-acre organic garden, and we put in a shower out there. It was a student-taught class. It was a physics class. Anyway, so followed with that and taught in 76 at UC Santa Cruz and the community college in 77, 78. Was a solar education specialist with Santa Cruz County, the first local solar job with the city government in the state. It's imperative that solar conversion and this information be taught to the kids as quickly as possible. An example also was that we invented the aluminum can solar collector. And basically it's an excellent conductor, and you paint it a dull black and put glazing over it, and it'll stagnate like 300 to 350 degrees. You get steam, you can generate electricity. Anyway, so this is something that you could just like collect from a building here or in a school, your cans, and you can make, this is something that kids could participate in, and you can show them. Also get into photovoltaics and whatnot, but it's imperative, and that it be according to the age grouping and what STEMs are required for them. I also want to say that an exchange at last committee on the 8th of February, that what was said was that I believe Wayne said, and it's on the tape, that you can't do it with reclaim. They said something about heaters and other pollution control. You can still use the existing pollution control, but have it, what you can do with solar, you will, and it's going to be phased out anyway. So also the $61 million, the article of 47 million on today's publication that you folks took out. Well, there's still 14 million that hasn't been spent, although that 47 million would best have been spent if it was part of the 61 million that we put in, but there's still 14 million left, and it should be used as soon as possible for planning, and it should be coordinated with the political people out here and the Democrats and Pelosi and all this. We've got the Congress now, the Democrats do anyway, so that the solar New Deal for Cortez and Markey be looked at as solar Green New Deal in the history. All right, thank you. So
Harvey?
Yeah.
Harvey, I don't know about the second part, but the first part, I'll make sure that there is in this program a portion about solar, so that these kids, you're right, kids need to learn about it, and they need to be sensitized to it. So I'll make sure that that goes in.
Okay, thank you very much. I gotta go get your access right now.
Okay, okay, okay. Now, Sunjata, since I saw you sneak back to the table,
Yes,
let me
Dr.
ask you a question, since this is a discussion that we had another day in another place, okay? In the health effects fund, it's a little short, right? If it wasn't short, couldn't part of Mr. Alatorre's program be considered educational health-wise?
I will look to legal counsel for that, Dr. Burke.
You can only, see, the legal counsel's, he passed it, you passed it to him, he passed it to Barbara. Barbara's gonna tell me, let me think about it. Oh, I'm looking here. No, she may pass it back to Jill. Why don't you give it back to Jill, Barbara?
Dr. Burke, I can only tell you the money part.
Dr. Burke, but both of those funds are created at the board's discretion in terms, there's no other legal restrictions on the ability to use the money. So if you were to choose to use some of that money for this type of a purpose, all it would take would be a board vote to do that. It would be, it's not like there's a statutory restriction on the fund.
That's why I hold Barbara in such high regard. From day one. So anyway, you ought to let Ms. Wynot and Mr. Alatorre know that, so that if we do want to expand this program, we don't have to keep coming back and trying to take money out of someplace that would hurt the mission of the district in other aspects. That's all I'm saying.
Correct, Dr.
That's all I'm saying. Okay. So, Mr. Alatorre?
Yes, sir.
Can we get your opinion on these proposals?
I'm looking at legal counsel right now for guidance. And he's pointing back at me, so I'm gonna look at Jill. And, there's some worthy proposals in there, and it's not up for me to decide who to select it. It's up to the.
You sound just like your dad.
Mr. Chairman.
I recognize Dr. Parker.
One of the things that I was, I'm looking, when I saw this, and all four of the proposals has something there that we could build on. The idea itself that we have the ability to include more children, more schools, is very intriguing to me. The less time we spend on the bureaucracy, going through the bureaucracy of governments, and school districts are government bureaucracies, you spend a lot of time. So if people who are going to have to spend monies in doing that, rather than being able to implement this program and making it accessible to as many children, is something that I think that we as a board, and especially this committee, should give priority to, as it relates to being able to accomplish school districts that are in our 4 counties that we serve. This has never been really presented before. It was always presented as a new idea and a new concept to do that. Now we have an ability to be able to encompass the kids and keep them better engaged with these measurements and kits. And I think someone who has the greater degree of experience in helping us to do this, initially on a rollout of this magnitude, is something that we should give priority to, because it really then enhances what we're talking about really wanting to do this from the beginning. It's not a social program. It's really a learning program, and it's also something that could help us really with our air quality, reductions by having kids to say, look up every day when you come in. I could see a big board saying, look at what the air quality themselves are relative to the measurements. We don't have that. And kids don't really even understand what it means when we say a 2.5 PM or whatever it may be, or VOCs, et cetera. It really gets them more involved. It's just like looking at a clock every day. You know what it means and what time of day it is. It's almost lunchtime or break time or whatever it may be. So it would be the same kind of situation. So I would think that, from my perspective, the Lee Andrews Group, who has, I don't know if it has or had, that ability to be able to engage all of these and not to deviate from what we've been doing, but really to expand it even greater, would be something that you would want to go into a situation. Now, some of these other ones on a smaller scale is that later on, and you were talking to our financial counselor there about having some dollars to experiment with some of these other ones and see if they can be added on. But as the basis of what we're talking about today, I would certainly be in favor of making a motion to say that we would implore the Lee Andrews Group proposal to go forward with this.
Ms. Mitchell, I see you reaching for your button.
I agree with Dr. Parker on that. I mean, all of these proposals are good, and some of them very interesting. The one from Global International with the superheroes is really intriguing. But I think out of the four of them, Lee Andrews has the best balanced team for what we want. I mean, she already has existing relationships with LA Unified, and we know with Long Beach Unified School District. She has on her team Mr. Williams, who has the relationships with San Bernardino and Riverside. And she has on her team Mr. Antonelli, who is an educator. And the whole proposal with their attention to the way kids learn and recognizing that some kids learn differently, I think is also very good in that proposal. And they set out in a timeline that I thought was appropriate. Some of the others, their timeline was like stretched out to the very end of the program before they reached the last school. So I really liked that proposal because of the whole concept of it. I like the creative aspect of the superheroes, and it would be fun if somehow we could do that too, but you know what, we have a limited budget. And I like the idea of somehow after the program goes through its year of endurance, that we have at the end some big event at one of the big convention centers where all the kids come together and show what they've learned, or somehow collaborate to demonstrate the benefits of the program. So that's not in this budget, I don't think, and I don't know how we get to that point, but I think we have a good start here on a program that we could extend, annually. And what we do now at the outset of it is important. We'll learn from our mistakes, but I do think that we have a good start here. And I would recommend Lee Andrews Group too. I think they've had the best overall proposal.
So,
should I move the item relative to discussions? I see this 3 o'clock.
I see Mr. Benoit's head shaking up and down while Ms. Mitchell's head is talking. He never does it when I talk, but I told you that Judy is intimidating, man. Mr. Caccione, what's your opinion? We're going to get you a video unit.
One like mine.
Orlando and,
Yeah, right.
What?
We're gonna get you a video unit, but what's your opinion?
I'm kind of torn between Ariano and Andrews, but I'm leaning towards Andrews too, and I'll just make it short. I think they're qualified. I like the outreach proposal. I'm looking at it right now. As Judy talked about the timeline. And I would like at the end of the program too, I think Judy, you're right, maybe a contest, Dr. Burke, where something, like it's every, we have maybe 10 awards or something like that, and money goes back to the school district or something like that, or the kids or something, about a project to clean up the air in their community. And that would really get people, not only talking about it, but actually doing something, and they could come together as a school or something like that. And offer this to the schools, some type of a scholarship program or something where really incentivizes and motivates them to get on a project to do something in the community or in their school itself or their neighborhood to implement an air quality improvement based on our program. But I'll go along. I think Andrew's had a great presentation and also Richard.
So it seems like it's unanimous on Leandra's group, but what I would like to do is get the board's, committee's rather, opinion of what happens if we also ask Sunjata to give Mr. Alatorre another $50,000 to up to $50,000 to talk to Global about the development of a superhero. Now, I don't even know what we would do with a superhero, okay? But it would seem to me that if we had something like that that we thought was usable, we could find a lot of use for that in our web advertising and in this school program in various places. So I don't even know. I should ask our chief legal counsel if I can even make a motion like that.
That would be fine, sir. I think that's covered both in terms of the contractors who were considered, and it's in terms of the amount of money that was being considered, it's well within the scope of that. So I think it would be an appropriate motion in terms of Brown Act and being fairly noticed.
So I don't want to do that if it's just me thinking this. If the rest of you are, Mr. Benoit, I see your hand up. Do you have to go to the bathroom?
No, I want to make a comment.
Okay.
I really like the superhero approach as well, but my thought with that was, how does this get us into more classrooms? And my thought is, if we went with that proposal, that we be locked into those classrooms where that superhero part, was created. And I think that's a great idea for that classroom. But then you couldn't go to the school down the street and tell them, hey, go buy this kit and you can do the same thing. So to me, it sort of limited us to just the schools we could afford to go to. I sort of like the idea of doing something separate, but at the same time, if we could put this into, let's say $50,000. I'm not sure. I think these kits are $1,000 a piece. If we can go into 50 more schools, I think that's a better use of the money than creating a superhero. And I'm not saying we don't do that someday, but maybe that's a separate project with something else that when we're talking to YouTube or one of those guys to develop another video. But I think there's other better ways we could spend that.
You talk me in and out of it. I'm with you 100%. I think that 50 more schools would be far better served than the development of this. So I withdraw my motion, but I will accept a motion on awarding this to Lee Andrews Group.
I'll move the item.
I'll second it.
Dr. Burke, to clarify,
yes.
Is would the amount of money remain at $550 instead of $500 to allow it to go?
Just $500. Okay. $500.
Well, we're going to put the other 50 schools or what?
Well, we didn't have the other 50. We were just talking in concept that we even had 50. Do we have more money? I mean, I think we
Yeah,
come
we're
back
go-
at a later
We're
point,
going to
right?
steal out of the health effects fund, but no. So we won't do that. We won't do that, okay? We'll leave it at 500 if it's okay with everybody. So would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Councilmember Cacciardi,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Okay, back to the agenda. Mr. Lowe. Oh, no, Sunjata?
No,
You have the
Mr. Alatorre
Huh?
still me, number 9.
Okay.
We're doing number 9
Oh, you need number 9.
and 10. I feel like Matt Miyasato, like I'm all over the agenda.
Well, I have to tell you, I have a problem with 9. My problem with 9 is that there's a thing we call, when I was in the marathon business, there's a thing that was called in industry grandma marketing, and that was, somebody says something to you about some of your advertising, so you think it's really doing boxcar numbers because your grandma said she saw it on radio or television. It's not really effective. It's not really scientific. I haven't seen, I would like, before we spend another $250,000, I'd like somebody to give me some kind of indication that on this Before You Burn campaign is moving the needle at all. The reason I know it's moving the needle on the movie thing is because everywhere I go, everybody talks to me about it. Not one person has ever said to me, man, I saw the one about check before you burn. So what are you using as an analysis for its effectiveness?
Yes, sir, Dr. Burke. So in the past 3 years, we've had the firm Westbound has had the contract. So they were able to not only market the Check Before You Burn program, but also get people to sign up to get the alerts when we issue a no burn day. So if I can just give you some numbers, in 2016, 2017, roughly 1,700 people signed up. 2017-18, 5,500 folks signed up. And in 2018, 2019, which just ended in February, the end of February, we got about 3,600 folks sign up. We've kind of changed things up this last year where we were actually in movie theaters. We signed up, we contracted with a DJ on a radio station that reached out to the youth, because that's what we always talked about. We're not reaching out to the youth. But we'll do whatever the board and committee wants. I'm not married to this.
Well, is this just being brought to us because a guy who retired in your office was a proponent of this?
I would agree with that, Dr. Burke.
Because that's the way it seems to me. Okay, so I'm going to be a no vote on this, but the other board members can vote their conscience. Okay. Do you need a presentation on this?
I'm just.
Do you want to make?
No, just all we're doing is seeking a
proposal
direction on whether we issue a proposal or RFP for this, and move forward if that is in fact the case. If you like, I can give a short.
Okay. Will somebody make a motion that we do this?
Not if the chair doesn't want it.
So, Dr. Burke, I
You're
just
asking
want
for a motion to roll the chair. I don't know, sir. In the assembly, you get in trouble for that stuff.
You know I love you. You know I love you. You don't have to say all this. You can just, but, why don't we do this? Why don't we continue this until next month's meeting? And in the interim, you provide me with some, and to the other, admin committee members, some information as it relates to the effectiveness other than the three numbers that you gave us.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Item number 10 is yours also.
Yes, I feel like.
I will accept a motion on 10.
Move approval.
Move approval.
Would the clerk call the roll?
Second.
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Councilmember Kaczynski,
Yes.
Aye.
Dr. Burke.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Two out of 3 is not bad.
I'm happy. To me, that's 100%. It's what you want.
Okay, Sunjata?
Okay, good afternoon again, Dr. Burke, members of the committee, Sujata Jain, ADO of Finance. This item is to remove surplus fixed assets that are obsolete and non-operable. We bring this item to you annually, and the items amount to $885,845 that need to be surplus or disposed. And there are 2 attachments. List A has equipments, and List B is showing the vehicles that we would like to surplus or dispose. And on the equipment list, there is 1 item that was disposed prior to board approval. I think it was a pump that was attached to another larger equipment when that was disposed. And so finance staff always is conducting training for district staff to ensure that, district policies followed as far as disposals and fixed assets is concerned. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? May I get a motion, please?
Move approval.
I'll move the item.
Second.
Second Ben's motion.
We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Mayor Mitchell,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Councilmember Kaczynski,
Yes.
Dr. Burke.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay.
On the next item,
Item 12.
Andrea Polidori is going to present on this one.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Dr. Burke and member of the committee. My name is Andrea Polidori. I'm the Atmospheric Measurements Advanced Monitoring Technologies Managers and representing Dr. Lowe today. So some background on this item. In January and June 2018, the board recognized revenue from the Air Resource Board for the implementation of a B617. Now, based on an assessment of the program and input that we got from the steering committee members of the communities that we have been working with so far, there is a need to reallocate the funds for the purchase of additional monitoring and analysis equipment and to issue contracts for the implementation of AB617 in the 3 Year 1 communities. And I would be more than happy to answer any questions.
Do we have any questions?
I have a question for Bay. Do I need to announce that I'm a member of the California Air Resource Board, but I have no financial interest in this or conflict of interest?
Yes.
All right, so announced.
Can I get a motion on this? I'm a Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Would the clerk call the roll?
Councilmember Benoit,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Councilmember Kaczynski,
I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
We're calling the roll for you, Mayor
I'm sorry, Mayor
Caccione.
Mitchell,
They're,
Aye.
Dr. Parker,
Aye.
Councilmember Caccione,
Yes.
Dr. Burke,
Yes.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, I see, item 13 is Mr. Alatorre. Did he run for a bunker somewhere?
He had to step out.
Yeah.
This is just a written.
He's hiding in his office now? Okay, this is just an informational item. Doesn't need any presentation, doesn't need a vote.
Correct.
Do we have any public comment in
We
CC8?
do not. Mr. Etter had wanted to make public comment, but he had to leave. But I believe based on the text that he wrote on his card, he covered his points in the previous item. So there's no other
Okay,
public
thank you
comment.
very much. We have no public comment here. How about Wildemar?
Nope, none of Wildemar.
Wildemar. And how about you, Judy?
None here.
No? How about Caccione? Do you have any public comment where you're at?
Nothing in South Pasadena.
Okay, well then that concludes the admin committee meeting and we adjourn it.
Thank you.
Thank